Hey everybody, Sean here. I got a special guest tonight, John Trigg. First ever episode of Makers and Breakers. John, tell us a little bit about yourself.
How you doing, Sean? All right, so get ready. This is going to take a minute. Right now, I'm running for Register of Wills. I'm a licensed realtor based in Lansdale, Pennsylvania. I'm a former actor, a former model. I'm a manager at Wawa. I'm a former mixed martial artist, gym owner, business owner. I've done almost all of it and then some. So I've been around a few places. But currently I'm running, my main thing right now is I'm running for Register of Wills for Montgomery County, which is one of the more important of the row offices, considered row offices at the Norristown Courthouse.
John, that's a lot. And man, I just got to figure out where to start here. But it seems like the row office is hot on the list. So let's tackle that first.
Yeah, so we'll talk about the Register of Wills first. That's probably the most important, and that's what's going on now, and it's going to be going on through November 5th, which is Election Day here in PA. So Register of Wills is a county office. It's an elected office because it's a public service office. The design of it is a nonprofit base. We do collect inheritance taxes, but the office itself has several functions, and it's really important. So this is one of those unique offices where on one of your best days, you're going to see the register. On some of your worst days, you're going to see the register. And that's not in any other office other than the Register of Wills, because the register is the one that issues marriage licenses. So one of the best days of your life, you're going to get married, you go in, you want to file for your marriage license. That's where you're going to be with the register. One of the worst days is dealing with a will or an estate that has to be probated, and hopefully there is a will. But the registrar's office is the office that actually determines how the estates get broken up and who takes care of them. Now, one of the other functions they also have is they clerk for the orphans court. So they schedule adoption hearings and they deal with petitions. And so there's a lot of functions within this one particular office.
Is there any particular part of this that excites you the most?
The thing that I excelled at in my business life, and I've been in executive management now for 20 plus years, it's the idea of working with something it's earlier we were talking about games, and the game Jenga and Tetris comes to mind when you think of this office, because there's so many aspects to it. This is it's a multi-management type of a business, right? So you've got people who may excel with dealing with wills and probate. You've got people who may excel with dealing with marriage licenses or issuances. You've got people who may be very sentimental, and dealing with adoption and or orphans court is more their game. The thing with the office is all of those things have to work together. And so in any business, and we have to think of this as a business because it does collect nearly $80 million a year in inheritance taxes. In any business, it has to run effectively. And right now, the office is ineffective in its management. Okay, so number one, the biggest problem they have is anything you have to do at the courthouse, and this goes for every office, by the way. Anything you do.
Tell me about how are they not working well?
So the offices themselves are not designed to be convenient. They're designed to be courthouse offices, right? So the hours aren't conducive to anybody. Norristown, depending on where people are listening to this, Norristown is our county. It's what we call the county seat. Mm-hmm. It's basically a mini Philadelphia. It's a mini city. So you have all the issues you'd have with Philadelphia, in that parking is very difficult to find, and if you do find it, it's really expensive, unless you park in one of the paid lots, which is also expensive, but can be several blocks away from the courthouse. So you're either going to pay a lot of money and then run outside every few hours to feed your meter. Otherwise, you're going to get hit with a nasty ticket. Or you're going to park several blocks away. And in the cold, which we get in PA quite a bit, or in the rain, those are just not options you want to take. So convenience is a major factor. And it's a big reason that people don't like to go to the courthouse. Besides the fact that when you go in, and I understand the security issues, but getting into the courthouse is an issue all on its own. Now, we can't affect the security of the courthouse, but we can make it more conducive to doing business. The hours right now, if you want to get a marriage license tomorrow, you're going to have to take the day off from work. That's a reality. You and your fiance are going to have to take the day off from work.
Really?
Because you're going to have to drive out to Norristown. Okay, so depending where you are in this county, Montgomery County is a massive county. We're talking about a drive that could be well over an hour for most of the residents of this county. Exactly.
Yeah, so I'm one of them.
We've got people in the western part of the county. This is an hour-long drive to and an hour-long drive from. Now, once you get to the courthouse, you've got about another 15, 20, 30 minutes to find parking, someplace that you either feel is safe or relatively close enough to the building that it's not going to take you another 15 or 20 minutes to walk there. Okay, so once you get there, you've now found parking, you've dumped in all your change, and you're hoping to God you make it in and out of there in less than 3 hours, because if you don't, you got to get back out there and feed that meter again, or you're going to get a big ticket. You go up to the courthouse, you finally get through security, you get up to the office, only to find out you're the fifth person in line, and those offices move at a snail's pace because they're not effectively managed, they're not effectively run. And this is why business people are better for these roles than politicians, and far better than people who are getting benefits because of how high up they are in the party. This is not a political, it's a political office, and I say that with quotations. It's a political office in that it is an elected position, right? It's elected because it services the public. But that's the only reason it's a political office, is it services the public. We don't make laws. We don't create legislation. The Register of Wills, Recorder of Deeds, Prothonotary, we don't write law. We're not going to Harrisburg. We're not going to hang out with the lawmakers. What we're going to do is we're going to follow the rules based upon what the parameters are. So dealing with wills and probate, there's certain parameters you follow. Okay, and that I don't write them, I don't create them, I don't change them. They are what they are. So this is why a business person is better suited for this role, because it's not about making laws. I always say to people, this office is not about making laws, it's about making a difference. Being able to work with people, being sympathetic or empathetic, understanding that people's time, it's the one thing we have, is our time. Going to the office and waiting for an hour and a half to 2 hours because the people in front of you are maybe taking an extra long time. And you don't know what somebody's going through. The office itself is fairly small. So you could be at two tables. And at the first table, there could be a young couple there getting their marriage license, and they're ecstatic. This is the day. They're taking pictures. They're very excited. And the table right next to them, back to back, could be the worst day of that couple's life because their parent may have just passed away. And the parent didn't leave a will. And now they've got to go to the Register of Wills, and they've got to get that estate probated. And so imagine just imagine the scene of it. You've got one side of this table, one table is ecstatic and the other table is miserable. And these two people are back to back. That's an ineffective usage. All right. Number one, neither should be, put in the same space with the other. Both of them should have their own spaces to go to. These are private issues, and they're done in an open public space. Cross-training the people who work in the office. You should be cross-trained. This is business 101. Everybody should be cross-trained. Whenever you take on a job, you learn all the jobs. You don't just learn how to ring on a cash register. You learn how to fold shirts and put them away. You learn how to clean up. You learn how to meet and greet. You do all the jobs, and the offices need to run the same way. Everybody should be cross-trained. There shouldn't be a wills table and a licenses table and an adoption table. Everyone in that office should be cross-trained. And when they're not, it's an ineffective use of potential resources. So an important thing with this office is getting everybody cross-trained so anyone can answer your question. It's making sure that the hours are conducive to people's regular lives. You shouldn't have to take a day off of work to get a marriage license or to deal with a will. Dealing with wills should be able to be scheduled. Okay, you should be able to go online, put in a time that's convenient for you and or your family members, schedule an appointment, and go to that appointment. That's how it should be done. You can't do that in Montgomery County. We have no online system in Montgomery County. In fact, we're the number 3 county in the state of Pennsylvania, and we basically have no social system whatsoever. We have no social media for the Register of Wills, which is one of the most important offices in the county. We have no social media. The gentleman who is in the office now doesn't need to. He won the office. He's got a big D next to his name. He got his office. He didn't have to run for it. I bet people who are listening to this right now, if I don't tell you his name and you don't look it up, you can't say it. I've been around the county for the last 2 months. 1 in maybe 20 people, maybe 1 in 20 people know, number one, that there is a Register of Wills, and that's because they probably remember from when they got married, or is able to name the gentleman who's been in the office 8 years, a public servant for 8 years, collecting a big paycheck for 8 years, our tax dollars, 8 years, and nobody knows who he is.
John, it sounds like you're trying to tackle like a really big problem there. What you're telling me, like I had no idea that this process was as a mess as it is. So you can't set up an appointment or anything. You just have to show up and hope for the best.
When you want to get a marriage license, you can get a downloaded application for a marriage license. But then the performance of it is a show and go. You show up. There's no appointments set up. You can't go on to Twitter or Instagram or Snapchat or Facebook or any of these social networks and find out, are they even open today? What happens on a snow day? Are they open? Are they closed? What are their hours today? Well, the hours actually isn't so hard because the hours are basically what is ever the most inconvenient for a person to work. That's the hours of the courthouse. But in Bucks County, which is almost as large as Montgomery County, they've got extended hours. Why doesn't Montgomery County have extended? We're larger than them. We do far more business than Bucks County does. But Bucks County has extended hours. That's what I'll bring. I'm going to make hours conducive to people rather than making people get conducive to the office. People should not have to work to get public service. It's called public service. And the gentleman in that office has not yet performed a public service. People don't even know his name. He hasn't done anything. He hasn't earned the right to be in that office. If you cannot name the official in an office, that person should not be in the office, and they certainly should not be collecting a check. Now, this is public information, so I have no qualms about sharing it. You can look it up very easily. This office pays almost $82,000 a year. So the gentleman in that office has collected over $640,000 in tax revenue for 8 years. Yet no one knows his name. And that's not counting his benefits. No one knows his name. No one knows that he even ran, because most of the time they just hit, straight R or straight D. They don't vote for the person. And these offices, for everybody who's listening, please understand this. A county row office, similar to a school board, is not about partisanship. It's not about who's a Republican. It's not about who's a Democrat. My political beliefs have nothing to do with this office, and they never will. It has nothing to. It doesn't matter what I think politically, because it's not a political office. It's a service office. And a business person, an expert in business, I have 25 plus years of business expertise. I've worked for some of the largest publicly traded companies in the world. I've worked overseas for public companies in Amsterdam and in Germany. I've been all over. I've built companies from the ground up. I've consulted on companies from $1 million a year corporation all the way up to a $100 million a year corporation. This office needs someone who's going to come in, look at all the things that could be fixed and be better. I'm fiscally very conservative. I don't want to spend money if we don't need to spend money. I don't believe in spending taxpayer dollars for useless reasons.
But you like efficiency.
Above all else, efficiency is the most important. And to get there, we need to retrain, we need to rethink, we need to restructure the office. We need people to be cross-trained across the board in every single job. Everyone should know how to do every single job, right? We need to be able to schedule things. I don't know any business in the world that can run efficiently without a schedule. It just doesn't make sense. Show and go type business doesn't work. I mean, maybe if you're getting a Slurpee, that's a cool idea. But when you're doing things that cover hundreds of thousands, if not millions, when it comes to some estates, these things should be personally scheduled. You should have a private time where you can go and sit and talk. Because what people are forgetting, and what this office seems to lack in some ways, is the necessary empathy of the ear. These are people who are going through an awful time. Okay, someone has passed away, be it a family member, a relative, someone they love has passed away. And now you've got to deal with picking up those pieces. And that's just not something you can do between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m., Monday through Friday, when there's not someone else already in the office. That's not an effective use. Okay, that's not the right way to do things. This is a public service office, and it's time for the service to be back on the public and not on the person in the office to make sure they can get out in time to get to their other office. That is not the way this business should run.
So now, I think I may have remembered this from an earlier conversation that we were having, but right now, what are the hours for somebody in one of these positions right now? Like it sounds like it was pretty limited.
Okay, so